When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Second hour of the Elias Macko Show. I thank you all for listening on what is turning out to be a very consequential day in Quebec politics as we head towards the next provincial election on Monday. Jean Boulet, Minister of Immigration. Well, it appears that he is going to go on an apology tour today. We have put in a request for Jean Boulet to come on this program this morning. He has already begun to show his face on the Francophone side to start apologizing for those comments that came out yesterday. Now, you know what they say, timing is everything. We put out we sent out requests to all of the party leaders, the 5 main parties, plus the Canadian Party Quebec and Bloc Montréal. 7 leaders. We had 7 shows left to go last week, and we put out a request to all the party leaders to say, hey, if you want to come on, come on. It is very interesting to note that the people at the Conservative Party of Quebec got back to us today. Timing is everything. And they're like, yeah, we will take you up on your offer. So Eric Duhaime is on the line, leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec. Mr. Duhaime, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Elias.
So, timing. What made you say this morning, you and your team, hey, let's take CJAD up on their offer?
Well, because it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I never refuse the interviews. It's very unusual unless I'm really, really tight. But today I have a few minutes, and I'm very happy to talk to you because you're right. The campaign is taking a different twist right now. And, Mr. Boulet's comments yesterday shocked a lot of people. And, I've been very critical personally of illegal immigration or of certain actions that were taken by the government regarding immigration policy. But yesterday, the problem is that we have an immigration minister who is lying. I mean, it's not just the fact he has a right to have an opinion on immigration. That's one thing. But when he says that 80% of immigrants don't work, or when he says that 80% of them live in Montreal, it's completely false. And as an immigration minister, we expect him to know better, to know that the reality is that over 60% of immigrants in Quebec are working, that over a third of them are not living in Montreal. I mean, those are data. It's not an opinion. It's not politics. It's just fact and truth. I think that's what shocked us a lot.
We also heard from the Premier yesterday, who was speaking at the Montreal Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, that line that he said at one point, it would be un peu suicidaire to increase immigration levels. But you don't want to increase immigration levels either, right?
What I want is, I didn't talk about how many immigrants we should get in Quebec. I think that debate is not appropriate. I mean, we need to have immigrants who are ready to come here to contribute to our society. If they want to work, if they want to integrate to the French majority, I think they're welcome. And that's the way we should look at it. What I'm most concerned about, it's not legal immigrants. Personally, it's illegal immigrants. When I see that there's over 40,000 possibly immigrants who are going to cross over at Roxham Road, I think it gives a very bad name to immigration because those people, we don't know if they're going to work. We don't know if they're going to integrate to the majority. It's a huge problem that we have right now, and they're all talking about legal immigrants who are not the problem. And I think that's the reality right now, that we should focus on where the problem is. I have the chance, Elias, to visit a lot of small communities. I go everywhere. Yesterday, I was in Lobinière in a factory. I've met some guys from Colombia. They speak French like we do. Of course, they have a Latino accent, but they're totally integrated into their community. They're doing jobs in a place where there's a shortage of manpower. They're a huge contribution to Quebec's economy. The day before, I was in Bellechasse with the Prévost bus factory. Again, I met a lot of workers coming from overseas who are making a huge contribution to Quebec and are absolute necessity. We need those people in Quebec. And the fact that we have a minister who says that there are people who are lazy, who are not working, and who are all in Montreal is completely false. And if there's one thing, and I think that even, the non-Francophones in Quebec could agree with me, there's a lot of things that we could say against Quebecers and against Francophones, but we're not a closed-minded society. I mean, I wouldn't be as an openly gay leader of a conservative party if people were closed-minded.
Well, let me tell you, Erica, I've pointed this out, right? Something so unique about Quebec because we're secular that makes right-wing movements a little bit more palatable because they don't come attached with all of this social conservatism. Point well taken. But I want to take it back. You brought up Roxham Road here, and I think, what also is important, whether someone misspeaks or comes out with an outright lie, is tone and repetition. So on Roxham Road, I mean, you've said some things when we talk about tone and rhetoric, building walls. That was a story this week, right? And you all know the connections there when you use that language of building a wall, that kind of thing, right? So, I have to ask you, right? Like and this is something you've hit on more than one time, right? So this is different than a one-off comment. You hit on this and you say the build the wall kind of rhetoric. A lot of people would view that and say, that also kind of makes me feel icky.
Okay, first off, they took a quote that I done when I was a radio host, and as you know, as radio hosts, we say all sorts of funny things.
We do, Eric. I'm just because I've heard you. Listen, you've said that line, and by the way, it's partially a really good explanation. But I also look like I'm telling you. In my radio career, and now we're up to 4 years at CJAD, I've been in trouble once, and it was for making fun of a rewards program, right? It was not for making fun of immigrants or anything like that, right? So
no, but I didn't make fun of immigrants at all, Elias. I just want to say that at the time there was a debate. Even the leader of the Parti Québécois at the time, I don't know if you recall, Jean-François Lisée, was proposing to build a fence, and I received a guy on my show who was talking about how they would build that and what they could do at Roxham Road to stop this. And, I don't know if we should build a fence or not, but there's one thing I know is that we need all parties together, and we need to put partisanship aside to make sure that we stop that. 90% of illegal immigration in Canada comes in Quebec. The federal government, we learned that this week from the CBC, they spent $500 million based on people crossing over at Roxham Road. It became a business. There's smugglers now. It's a criminal activity of people who are getting rich out of it, making profit out of those poor migrants. There's something needs to be done. In Ottawa, I saw that they just had a committee. They're putting in place a committee to study that question. It's a very serious matter. We need to act, and it's not against or in favor of immigration. It's in favor of legal immigration, and we have an agreement with the U.S. that just doesn't make sense. In terms of illegal immigration to Quebec, if you try to cross over at Roxham Road, Elias, we can go, you and I, and try to cross over in the States and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, of course. But as you've mentioned here, Ottawa is such a big key on this, right? And their part, so it is a tricky thing. And Roxham Road, from all the experts I've spoken to on it, is literally the most complex problem. So so when people dissect it into building a fence or a wall, it's just like, that seems just too easy. I need to take some time here, Eric, because you're making this big push and you're on the air with us. I hear the ads that you're paying for on this radio station, okay? And they're in high rotation, so you're making a push. Let's talk about you, the Anglophone community, and forget about the anti-Bill 96, very clear, you've been on the table like that. What else do you think you can do for Anglophones come October 4th to show that you're committed to them and their future as a part of this province?
Well, I want to make sure that we put aside our language. I think that we were at a point in Quebec where there's enough people that are bilingual right now and who are beyond that old debate on linguistic issues. I want to build a real alliance of people who are more, in favor of defending our civic rights, defending our individual freedom. This is what the Quebec conservatism is all about, and that's the kind of alliance I'm trying to build right now. I'm seeing that a lot of non-Francophones are getting in, and I'm very proud and happy. Saturday night, our last rally that we're doing it in the west end of Montreal, in the constituency of Jacques-Cartier, and I invite all Anglophones to join us. I'm going to make a bilingual speech. I want to make a final pitch to the non-Francophone community in Quebec, to the Anglophones. I think it is important. We're all Quebecers, and that the Liberals are not going very well right now. It could be, like in Quebec City right now, they're at 2%. Just to give you an idea of where the Liberals are now, I don't think the Anglophones have an interest in being in a very, very small party that is only representing non-Francophone constituencies. I think we need to have parties that are representative, no matter which side of the English or French community you're in, and that's the Conservative Party that is proposing that. A non-separatist beyond the linguistic battles and looking for your civic rights and your individual freedom. This is what we're all about.
Mr. Duhaime, one last question here quickly on this one. I'd love to know your take on what we've seen in Europe in some countries like Italy electing far-right governments.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of activities going on right now politically that are pushing for populism and more right-wing. I just want to say that I'm not radical at all. I've always been a moderate, politically speaking. Yes, my leaning is towards individual freedoms. I'm sensitive to libertarian arguments. That being said, I do believe that we need to do it in the democratic process. And I decided 2 years ago to invest the political process to make sure that we keep our faith in our institutions in Quebec, because there was a problem, I think. There was a democratic deficit, and we're trying to make sure that that gap doesn't exist anymore. And I'm really concerned about the polls right now, Elias, because they're showing that we're between 15 and 20% in the polls, and we might end up in 4 days without any seats. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be a huge problem for our democracy because, we can't leave one person out of 5 or one person out of 6 outside of Parliament. I think our voice needs to be heard within Parliament, and I hope that the non-Francophone community, the English community in Montreal, is also going to help us to make sure that we send at least one member to the National Assembly. We need to be represented. Our voice needs to be heard.
Éric Duhaime is the leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec. Thanks so much for coming on.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Elias.